Hello, this is Ian, and I'm talking about growing your own. Now, I haven't got a garden at the moment. I got a couple of patios, and everything's been paved over in this place when we got it. So, we got a bit of patch of grass there, but I don't really want to dig it up. I couldn't do it. So, what we're going to do is we're going to do some patio gardening. We're going to grow everything in pots and containers. No reason at all why we can't do it. What the results are going to be, we will have to wait and see. I think I'm going to have some bad news and some good news in the future. We're doing cut and come again lettuce. I've got a big tub, and I've planted carrots and beetroots around the outside and shallots right round the rim, because they don't need a lot of space. And I'll just leave it and let it grow. Water it, just see what happens. It's about 16 inches high, the tub. So it'd be good, quite good for the carrots. But you've got to keep it damp. Got to keep it moist. There is a trick my grandfather used to tell me. Don't water all the time, because all that does is get top growth. You want the roots to go down into the soil. So occasionally, don't oil it. Don't oil it. Don't water it. And that encourages the roots to try and find the water. And you get better root growth, which means you get better top growth. That's my grandfather's theory. So you don't water every day. You just test the soil and make sure it's moist underneath. You got a dry surface on the top. Just make sure that when you put your finger in, that it's damp still. And then you can leave it. But it's nice and sunny today. You can see I'm in bright sunshine. It's really hot out there. I watered first thing this morning, about 6 o'clock. I went out, it's 12 o'clock now, about an hour ago, 11 o'clock. And I put my finger in, and on top of it all, everything's dried in a couple of hours because it's so warm. So I'm going to have to go out and water again. I got seedlings coming up, and they look good. But I don't want them to die back, because if they dry, they sort of halt and don't grow anymore. So I want them to grow. So I just got to keep the soil damp. There's a trick. You've got to see when to water and when to not. But at the moment, because it's so hot, I'm keeping it damp. Because I don't want to lose anything. Can't afford to lose anything. I've paid over £100. I've started with nothing. All my kit is in my old greenhouse. I had everything in there. And the stuff you buy over the years, it lasts for years. You know, potting trays, pots to pot things on, different size pots. I had it all. And when we moved over here, the kids said, "Oh, you won't be doing any gardening anymore. We didn't think you need it." Well, I was in a bit of a state. I had a small heart attack, and I wasn't very fit, and I was staggering around on sticks. Then my hips went, and I mean, they really went, and now I'm in a wheelchair. Didn't think I was going to do it. So what I've done, you see, I'm an engineer. I make things. That's what I do. So I figure out how I can do things sat down from a wheelchair. So what I've done is I've made a bench that my legs will go under in the wheelchair, and it's 24 inches high. That's what it has to be for me. And I can go right up to the table, and I can work off of it. You'll see the table in the video. I've done a little video on my patio. It's a bit messy at the moment, but it's work in progress. We had new panels put on, and the old ones are still on the floor, and we haven't had a chance to clean them up. So that's in the corner. We got buckets, and we put the potatoes in buckets. And I've got runner bean seeds actually in the house in tissue paper to get them to sprout. Because at night, it's still getting cold at night. It's not warm enough. What happens is, when it's warm, the seeds want to grow. And when it's cold at night, they cuddle up. They stop growing. So you've got this grow, come, grow, come. So that's why you start things off in a greenhouse, because you've got almost constant heat. And it keeps the heat in the winter when you close the door. So it's very hard growing seeds outside because the soil isn't, and the pots isn't hot enough. It's got to be around about 60 degrees. Well, it's 60 degrees out there today, plus must be getting on for 70. It's good, ideal for growing. But at night, it's going down to 8 or 9 degrees, which is what, 35, 40 degrees? And that's when the plants stop growing. So it stop, and confuses them. So what you do, I got a propagator that keeps the heat in overnight, and that's allowed the seeds to grow, and they are growing. I went out this morning, and it's better than the video. I had a couple of little green shoots when I did the video yesterday, but they're all over now, and they're growing like mad. And in this warm weather, they're really growing. I'm going to have to go out and water again before I have my lunch. Anyway, I'm going to show you the video. Don't know what the audio is like on it, but I explain what I've got in my patio. And it's not the final version, because everything's got to be moved around. And I got to have some help for that. I've done what I can do on my own, but I need help. So either one of the kids will come round now, or my mate will come down, and he'll move everything around for me. Because working out of a wheelchair is not easy. I can sit at the table. I got a little potting tray that I can use, a green potting tray, and I put the potting compost in there. I make my own potting compost, by the way. Use the basic potting compost from the garden centre, and I add blood fish and bone, and I also add potassium nitrate, which is saltpetre, which is the stuff you find in gunpowder, but you don't tell anybody that, all right? I haven't said that, right? There used to be people called saltpetre men during Queen Elizabeth's time, because the government needed saltpetre to make black powder, gunpowder. And the best place to find it is where there's urine. So it would be stables. Stables were not allowed to be paved. They stopped, so it was only just dirt. So the urine from the horses would sink in. Then the saltpetre men would come in, and there'd be white crystals in the soil where the urine had soaked in and turned into saltpetre. I don't understand the chemistry, but that's where it is. But during Elizabethan times, you had a hall. And then on one side, you might have your cattle, and on the other side, you'll have your hall. Little house, where you'd sleep, and the fire in the middle. Because they didn't have chimneys then. I only started doing chimneys afterwards. But the hallway was mud. Dry mud. And the men would pee there. Oh, it must have smelled awful. But then you had the animals there anyway. So it would have been masked. And the saltpetre men used to come in, dig the hallway. And when people were out, they'd come in and dig it. And people would come home, open the door, and find a hole in the hallway where the saltpetre men had been in and nicked the saltpetre out of the ground. Yeah, all sorts of ruckus by the sound of it in those days. So they were called saltpetermen, and it's potassium nitrate, and that's what's used in gunpowder. But it's also a fertilizer. It's good for the soil. Yeah, good for the soil. That's what it is. And I've always used it. And I only sprinkle a handful. I used to make a wheelbarrow full of it. Tip the compost in as a whole. Rub it like your mother used to rub butter into the flour to make cakes and things. What you do is you rub and do it through your fingers and make the clumps of peat smaller and break it up. Now, some people sieve it for seeds. I haven't got a sieve at the moment. I used to, but I haven't this time because I haven't got a sieve. But I got one coming. I've ordered one. So, Amazon, going to be here next week. So, anyway, what you do is you sieve it, little bit of saltpeter, potassium nitrate, little bit of bone meal, 2 different fertilizers. It's just the mix. And then perlite and what's the other stuff? Oh, perlite and to keep the moisture in. Yeah, brain's gone. Hang on a minute. I'm gonna go and check what the name. Vermiculite. That's what it's called. That keeps the moisture in, and if it does, and then it releases the moisture slowly. So you water it, that soaks it up, and then it releases it slowly. So I got this mix: white pellets, which is a perlite, and then the water retention. Madness, innit? And a little bit of sand, about a cupful of sand in it, and that stops it sort of binding up again. It just works for me. If you buy this mix in the garden centre, it costs you double the price. So I mix it myself. And for seedlings, I just put a little bit more sand in it. It's got to be washed sand. You don't want any salt in it, because that kills the plants, you see. Anyway, let me show you the video, and then we'll talk again. And yeah, we're getting there. What we've got is, what is it, 20 by 20, something like that. It's not very big. Patio. That's the old fencing that came out that we're going to get rid of. There's a propagator over there. We got the wheelbarrow. We got the green waste in the bin, but that's going in a compost bin later. When I had these pots, what I did is I took all the old compost and put it in there, and I'll put it in a compost bin to rot down, because there was lots of weeds and that in it. Pots. Couldn't believe the price of pots. £3.50 each for large pots. I'll grow tomatoes in those. But we went round B&Q, and the same size, we found these yellow buckets. That's the same size as the pots. They were £1. So I bought 10 of those. We got no greenhouse or anything. We're just trying to do what we can with what we got. That's what I put up in. I've got seeds growing in here, I think. Let's have a look. See what we got. Oh, we have green shoots. I didn't have any this morning. I have green shoots. Hang on a minute. We got 3 varieties of tomatoes in there. and I can't remember which one is which, but I've done them in rows. So it's Tom 1, Tom 2 and Tom 3. So when they come out, I'll put them on and I'll keep them in teams of 1, 2 and 3, and then we'll find out what they are when they grow. We've got all sorts of things in these little ones. We got come again lettuce. We've got some herbs. But the problem is I had no labels. So I've planted all this up with all different stuff. And I don't know what it is. But I'm quite good. Once it comes up and I can see the leaves, I've got a chance. Now, let me show you this. I hope you can see it. We have little green leaves coming up. I think that's lettuce. And I think it's cut and come again lettuce. But obviously I can't transplant them out yet. Gotta wait until they get longer. But we got stuff growing. That's the amazing part of this. And I haven't got a garden. I got a patio. So, as time goes on, we'll do little videos and I'll just show you how I get on and what mistakes I make. Because I'm bound to make them. But I got green shoots, look. I'm impressed. I know it looks a bit of a mess at the moment, but I think my mate's going to come round and help me sort it out. We're going to cut up the wood, and we've got a little half-sized dustbin wood burner, and we'll get rid of it. So, anyway, that's the start of the garden. Going to see what we can grow. I think we're going to have trouble in the summer because with those stones it gets very, very hot. But then come July, August, it gets that hot anyway. We've got tomatoes in. We've got, as you see, what we've done is the runner beans take time to mature. And I think it's too cold at night at the moment for runner beans to grow straight from in the ground or in the pots as I'm doing. It's all right now, it's hot enough. So what I've done is I've brought them in and I've put them in on trays, and I've got French beans, I've got runner beans, and I've got some peas. It came as a pack, as 3, so I'm growing all 3. And the French beans and the peas I'll put in a trench. I've got a flower pot that's about 3 foot long and about 6 foot 5 inches, 6 inches wide as a trough, and I'll put the French beans and the peas in those. I've got 2 of them, and the runner beans I've got some stone pots. I don't think they're quite big enough, but you don't need a lot of space. You can grow runner beans in a grow bag, so you don't need a lot of depth, but they do like to burrow down into the soil. And they do like manure. Because what we used to do is dig a trench, put the manure in, about 2 feet wide, dig a trench, then put the soil back on top. That would then rot down. And then that's as the seeds were growing in the greenhouse. And then you'd wait until it was warm, like now, and they'd be 2 or 3 leaves high, and you plant them out and stick them with bean canes. And then you cut a trench, like a shallow trench, down through the middle, and that would be used for watering then. And as you had a slight slope on the garden, I had a very slight slope on my garden, so I just dug a trench, put the water hose on the top, and just let it throw down through like a little river. And just leave it on for an hour or 2. And that would water the plants. You definitely do it during a dry spell like this. And then you get long runner beans. And fresh runner beans, straight out of the garden, you cannot beat. Fresh peas out of the garden, you cannot beat. But the problem with what we had is we found the peas would be great the first day, and then they go to seed, they dry up. So what we stopped doing peas. The amount you got to pot them and everything. Well, as I've already got the peas, I'll do a few, and we'll get a couple of meals out of it. We'll take them as they're young, and then we'll take them as they're full size, and hopefully we can get 3 meals out of it before they go to seed. And we can keep the seed for next year. If they go to seed, keep the pea seeds, put them in a cool, dark place in a cardboard paper bag, fold it over, write on what it is, and you can do that with onions and carrot seed. And keep the seed for next year. The problem comes is if they're using F1. Like a lot of cabbages and that were F1. I couldn't keep cabbage seed. I'd grow cabbage seed for the next year from F1s, and they'd look like weeds. They didn't look like the cabbage that I grew in the garden. So I used to buy cabbage seeds from Hubble Days Research Centre. One, it helps them, and they're a seed bank. And they are brilliant. If you want to join Hubble Day and you want real seeds, that's the place to go. Don't use F1s. And then you can let the, carrots, onions, beetroot, let it go to seed. You only need one. Enough seed for you for the next year. Beetroot, you might have to let 2 go to seed. Onions, you only need 1. Let it go to seed. And then take the seed head, cut it off, take the seed head, turn it upside down, and put it in your paper bag. Write on it what it is. And then shake it, and all the seeds come out in the paper bag. And then you've got your seed for next year then. And this is how it goes. This is what they used to do during the war. Nobody ever bought seed. I don't think my grandfather ever brought seed. He used to keep the runner beans going. And I said, isn't it time to take the runner beans down? They'd all gone to seed. He said, that's a seed for next year, Ian. Don't buy broad bean seeds. And he'd pick them up and he'd put them in a sack. And he'd keep them dry. And then he'd pot them and have the peas. And he had a little sack and he'd put them in a sack. And put them in a cool, dark place. And that would be the runner beans for next year. And this is how they do it. When you dig potatoes up, you get small potatoes. You get, your big potatoes, and use those. But you get little potatoes. And you think, what am I going to do with these? And he said, don't throw those out. Keep those. Use those for seed for next year. They will grow the same size potatoes as the big one. Oh. And it works. What I did is I got all the small ones. When I did a load of potatoes, I got the small ones. And what I did is I kept them in a cool, dark place. We got, under the stairs it was. And next year, I had a bag of seed potatoes. I put them in a tray, put them back underneath the stairs, let them sprout, only so they're sprouting, so they start off, and then go out and plant them. And they still give you, one potato still gives you the same amount of harvest as a big one that you planted before that you bought the seed potatoes from. Works brilliant. You've got to manage it. Anyway, this is Ian. Growing your own. And let's see how I get on. I'm going to have some disasters, I tell you. But I'm going to try my best. I've been gardening since I was about 4 or 5 years old. My granddad had a market garden. Dad used to help him. I used to help him. I helped him until I started work. And then I'd go over weekends and I'd help him plant potatoes. We plant half an acre of potatoes between me and my granddad on our own. Be at it all morning. Anyway, it's Ian. Bye bye for now.